You're watching The Project, where it is time to welcome tonight's very special guest. We love John Cleese so much that after his last appearance in January, we asked him back. Dave asked,
would you one night come and sit on our desk and so we could actually touch you?
He accepted.
I'd love to come in, yeah.
And now we're excited. Founding member of comedy gods Monty Python, creator of the classic Fawlty Towers, and nearly 60 films, is just a part of what Cleese has accomplished in a career spanning 50 years. And now he's in town for his new show, An Evening with John Cleese. And doesn't he just look thrilled about it? We have so much to talk about. Please welcome John Cleese. Now, John, first things first, you absolutely kept your promise. That is very impressive. Are you excited to be here? Is this a big moment for you? Is it?
Career highlight. You're about to add a chapter to your autobiography because of tonight.
But it was so much fun when I was doing it from, where was it, Perth?
Yes.
But I thought I really wanted to come along and meet you guys.
Well, we're glad you did.
It sounds like you're saying, it was so much fun then, I don't know what's going on.
Well, as you just mentioned, 8 weeks ago, we spoke to you when you were in Perth. You're touring around the country, An Evening with John Cleese. How's it all going?
Well, it's fine. We've done 31 shows. We've got 23 to go. We've almost sold out in Melbourne. I think there's some 2 seats for the last 2 shows. But otherwise, I'm afraid people are going to have to go to the first show in Canberra, because that's the only place that there's any seats left. And the audiences, I know this is show business bullshit with it, the audiences have been absolutely marvellous. And I can't tell you, because when you're doing the same show every night, if the audience is really good, it kind of lifts you. You know what I mean? And suddenly it all feels funny again, because you're not telling the same joke for the 31st time. You're enjoying it with them.
And are you doing life on the road? Is it party time on the road for you, or are you going to take it
I'm
easy?
72 years of age, my love. I have to go about 2:30 or 3 o'clock. Any West End actor or any actor will tell you that if you're doing on stage at about 8 o'clock, something funny happens around about 2:30, 3 o'clock. It's like your body says, hey, old man, you got to rest. And you don't have much energy, so you just go and rest, and then you've got all the energy you need for the night's performance.
A little nap.
A little nap, a little rest. But you can't do anything very constructive. It's the same when you're filming. Any actor will tell you, if you're on a film, you're sitting in the caravan, you know, for hours, you can't do anything more constructive than, say, a crossword.
Now, you're making people laugh everywhere at the moment, live. You're making people laugh with your films, and you have done for years. What makes you laugh? Are there any comedians, comedy shows, films that you enjoy, or things?
You get older and you realise just how utterly crazy the world is. I mean, you know, when you're young, I think you think it's pretty mad, but you think it can't be, because there's all these people in charge. And then when you get to my age, you realise the people in charge don't have a clue what they're doing. And you kind of relax and you think, well, it's never been any worse than this either, so just enjoy it. But you know, there's Obama the other day talking to the evangelists, and he actually has to say to these evangelical Christians, he has to say, I think, that higher taxes on the rich is not actually contrary to the teaching of Christ. I mean, I laughed out loud when I saw that. Is it blessed are the poor, or is it blessed are the rich? Well, in America, it's blessed are the rich. You know?
Yeah, American politics, that is funny. Now, you're doing a new film called Spud, and you're playing a teacher in it. Now, you've played a teacher once before, and it got a little bit saucy. So is there going to be a reprise?
Oh, that one. Oh, yeah. Well, I was actually a teacher for 2 years, you know.
Yes. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is this, so what we're seeing now, is this in any way autobiographical?
Well, it's more my experience. It's the sex lecture.
Sex ed class, done John Cleese style
this is
there.
more my experience as a schoolboy.
This is a
You better stop it now. I mean,
We are in a PG time slot.
We won't go the whole way. But how long were you an actual teacher for?
2 whole years.
Did you throw it like in Spud? You threw out 2 English books in your first scene when you were teaching. Did you do that as a teacher?
No, I didn't, but I thought it was so beautifully written. They sent me this script, and it's one of the nicest parts I've ever played. I hope people go and see it, because it's, you know, when I saw it at the premiere in Johannesburg, I did a very strange thing. I made myself cry.
Wow.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah,
I know. I'd never done anything on screen before that made, and it's funny and it's sad, and I think it's a terrific little movie. I do hope people will give it a chance.
I've made mistakes that have made myself cry, but I've never not through art, definitely. Now, I have to say, I would not have been a comedian had my mother not given me Monty Python's Life of Brian on video. I'm such a huge fan.
Thank
but
you.
I have to ask you, I was watching some recently. Do you think that Monty Python would get made today?
No, it wouldn't get made. I mean, one of the things I actually talk about in the show is the meeting when the six of us went off to meet the head of Light Entertainment, BBC Comedy, and he sort of said, what are you going to do? And to cut a long story short, we sort of said, well, we're going to try and be funny. And, you know, now you'd have to pitch every episode, this is what we're going to do, and these are the kind of jokes. And
have a sizzle reel.
And we had this pathetically ineffectual interview where we failed to come up with any good answers, and he said, oh, go away and make 13 programmes. I don't think now that it would happen, because and I'll tell you why, because the executives are all so anxious, because they know perfectly well they'll never get another job anywhere else. Then that means anxious people try to control things, and the trouble is not that they don't know what they're doing, but they have no idea that they don't know what they're doing. And that gives them confidence, and that's why television at the moment is such crap, apart from this show.
That is definitely going to be in an ad over the weekend. Now, speaking of anxious people trying to control things, we've got plenty more John Cleese to come, but first some headlines, Kath.
Yes, thank you, Charlie. Queensland Premier Anna Bligh is refusing to say how voters will feel about Julia Gillard visiting Kevin Rudd's home state. The PM is attending Labor's state election campaign launch on Sunday. Less controversially today, Ms Bligh unveiled a bronze statue of Brisbane Broncos hero Darren Lockyer. And Queen's touring, well, Her Royal Majesty, that is, and it's all to mark the 85-year-old monarch's Diamond Jubilee. She kicked off her kingdom-wide tour in Leicester with a parade and a few prayers, and she'll be on the road for 4 months, ending with a big gig at Buckingham Palace.
I'm so rapt she's touring, because her version of We Will Rock You is banging.
Now, John, I've got to ask, I imagine you've met thousands of fabulous people in the world. Have you met the Queen?
I met the Queen.
And?
Well, I got invited to lunch. Somebody rang up and said, will you come have lunch with the Queen? I assumed it was Michael Palin or Eric. I don't know. Actually, turned out it was, and we were met, and there was a strange bunch of people. Iris Murdoch was there, and the secretary of the Church Missionary Society, and somebody who ran a big shipping line, and a professor of anatomy from Oxford. Strange mix of people. And very nice ladies and gentlemen, or they called ladies in waiting and equerries, who were really nice and put us at our ease. But then, when the Queen walked in, it's a very strange moment, and I happened to be closest to the door that she walked in, and I felt I wanted to say to her, I've seen you on the stamps. But I didn't.
Right. Now, if you were putting on an event for the Queen, John, you'd choose the music very carefully, wouldn't you?
What are you getting at?
Well, Her Majesty was at a fashion event last night, and I'm going to take a stab in the dark. I don't think she's into banging house music. I don't think this is her type of music, somehow. Even Kate, I can't hear you, Kate, sorry. I cannot hear a word that you're saying. Do you think house music, not her type of music?
Was that music?
Yeah.
I'm afraid it was, yes.
Really?
Yeah, the fashions were more her thing, though. I could see her wearing some of those dresses.
Well, what they really love, as you know, is racehorses. That's the only thing that the Queen Mother and the Queen were ever deeply interested in.
Well, if only we could all share that expensive hobby. We have to take a quick break. Back with plenty more John Cleese. Don't go away. This is The Project. John Cleese is with us at the desk, and we'll be chatting more with him in a moment. First, Kath, a couple more headlines. Yes,
Charlie. Sydney's collar bomb hoax may have been a case of mistaken identity. Paul Douglas Peters has pleaded guilty to targeting teenager Maddie Pulver in her Mossman home last year. But now it's emerged the businessman had worked with former News Limited boss Ken Cowley, who lives in the same street. And there's apparently now a drug that makes people less racist. Researchers in Britain say after doing studies on a heart medication called propranolol, they've found it lowers racial bias in human brains. The drug is primarily used for lowering blood pressure.
Very excited to be able to use that footage, by the way. That's been sitting there waiting for a story. What do you make of this medical breakthrough, John?
Well, I mean, anything that calms us down is good. But why it should actually make racism any better, as opposed to sort of extremist religious or extremist political, I mean, the only way that the world will ever go sane is if we all meditate for 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes in the evening. That'll change the world. Till then, it'll be as crazy as it is now. And anything that calms us down is basically good. I'm not so sure about drugs.
Now, you have an enormous body of work, so many different projects. Is there something that stands out as your favourite or something you think best represents you?
It just depends on my mood. Like, I made a little program once about lemurs.
Almost.
In Madagascar, and I'd like to be buried with that, because I just think it was the sweetest little program I ever made. But other times, when I'm doing the show, for example, I watch a particular clip from Fawlty Towers, I'm still laughing at it.
Is that right?
You know, what is it, 30 years later, it still makes me laugh every evening. So it's almost a question of mood.
It's good to be impressed by your work. That's good.
The funny thing is that it still makes you laugh. Yeah. And that is odd. I can't explain it. It's acting that makes you laugh. It's not jokes. You can't tell the same joke again and again. But when you see a particularly funny bit of acting, that seems...
Are you surprised by how so much of your work endures like that?
Yeah. We never know. You see, people always assume if you've done something that's a success, you know, that it was always destined to be a success. And it isn't at all. It's an absolute toss-up. And when Connie and I were doing Fawlty Towers, we wrote it together. We thought, what if we get half the Python audience? And maybe some people are like it. We finished up with twice the Python audience. You know, you never tell. You can't tell. Other times you do things you think are pretty good and people don't like it.
Another one is a fish called Wanda. That aired here recently in Australia, and it was trending on Twitter as a topic that night. It's that popular still. Yeah. Everyone was just writing about how great this film is. I mean, that's one of your favourites as well, isn't it?
Yeah. I think that was very good. And there's moments in that. I show a couple. I mean, killing the dogs is hilarious. As I always say, we only got away with it because the dogs were Yorkshire Terriers. If they'd been German Shepherds, I would not be here on the show today.
It has been wonderful to have you on the program.
Yes,
unfortunately, we are out of time. But an evening with John Cleese is almost sold out. The couple of tickets left. We've got details on our website. Go there and have a look. Would you please thank the wonderful John Cleese? Thank you.